Hello everyone, today I'm interviewing Ilan Bluestone, as I'm sure you all know is a fantastic producer. How are you today, Ilan?
I'm good, thank you for the kind comments.
No worries, mate. So let's start with some history. What got you into music?
Um, I guess I've always kind of like since the age of about 9 years old, I picked up a guitar, started playing the guitar, and never really learnt any, didn't have really have any proper lessons. And I just thought I love this instrument, and then I got involved in it, and I started listening to Paul van Dyk, Tiesto back in the day, and just lots of trance above and beyond. And I was just like, I need to get into the production side of things. So that's how it all got started.
Right, awesome. So when listening to your tracks, they're quite melodically complex and also memorable. Do you have any music theory knowledge, or do you just do everything, intuitively by ear?
I guess when since a young age, I've always been listening to everything, all genres of music. I've always been open to all fields of music, from rock to, just experimental music to, Enigma, Enya, just like film scores, Bond themes and just like all the Bond movies. And I guess that kind of like opened my mind to, I want to do this. I want to be able to compose you know, these sort of chords which give everyone kind of like goosebumps.
Mm.
So I was like, I need to do this. So I got involved in the whole kind of like computing side of things, and that's how it all got started.
Right, cool. Um, okay, so let's say you sit down to start a new track. Where do you begin? Do you start with the drums? Do you start with, say, the melody, or is it different every time?
Well, the thing is, it all depends kind of like what you're actually thinking of in your current mind. Are you going to be producing a track which is going to be appealing to you, to the masses? Is it something that what are you trying to bring out in your composition? What are you saying with it? How are you going with it? Are you wanting a fat beat? Are you wanting a breakdown melody which sounds very anthemic? You need to kind of like think to yourself in your head, what do you want from this track? What do you want to achieve from it? And if you're just experimenting and you just came up with a random groove and you're like, wow, I've got an idea behind this. Sit down before you actually start going on it. Before you do, just analyze what you've got. And before you start producing and experimenting, think and try and portray the beat that you want in your mind. That's how I do. I always think about what kind of melody, what kind of anthem am I going for? Do I want it to be like a sort of chord that gives you the goosebumps after a major chord where you go into a minor chord? I've never learned music, I've never had like a theory of music. I kind of just pick it up by ear. I can listen to a song and I can play it, and then I can just analyze it and realize why it works. And then I try and incorporate it into my own productions, but in a way where it's not actually copying. You're kind of just sourcing why it works and how it works. And even every track that I listen to now on the radio, I appreciate. I
Mm.
cannot diss, people diss Bieber, people diss that, people, they take the piss out of like some old school Jackson tracks, like why? Fuck it, you just you're really like all the music at the moment which is working for a reason, and you've got to be open-minded to all music, and you can't just be like, oh, just trance. You've got to be open to everything and accept everything. So you even heavy metal, I'm not a huge fan of it, but I can sit down and listen to it and analyze why it works, why that particular track uses those sounds, and break them down. I listen to every track and analyze what synths they've got in there, what bass line they're going at, how loud it is. Are they EQing it? Are they compressing it? Does it sound fat? Does it sound really loud? Like, is it too soft? And I also think, what would I have done to make it better every time? And that's a good way of analyzing where you want to go. And then normally I'd start off with either a melody or a beat. Now, like I say to everyone, and in every interview I have, it's all about your kick drum. And I'll get onto the subject of how I get my kick drums. There's many, many techniques of doing this.
Yeah.
And a lot of people like to rip kick drums and manipulate them and change them and EQ them out to make it sound unique and different. A lot of people that I know take kick drums, they like use Audition to like cut them out or something like that, and they manage to get the frequencies of the other track out in the background so that they can actually just rip the kick by itself. There's many ways of doing that. It's quite a complex way, but the minute you learn Audition, which is an absolute amazing piece of software for like literally cutting stuff out of music or just analyzing how it's, the waveform, you can really get in there and find out what's going on in detail, which is great. So highly advise that one. But when it comes down to analyzing kind of the melody that I want to go for, I always try and think out the box. And the thing is, at the moment, a lot of people are copying each other to a point where if you are getting inspiration off another track, just don't copy it. Don't try and be exactly the same, You want to think something which is so out the box. Like even the track name needs to be out the box. You can't just name a track and be like, "Oh, I'll call it bass," Like, it needs to be like something completely mad, Like even that, like let's get a selfie track, whatever it's called, it's still like it's catchy because it's a name which is out of the box, even though it's not like an amazing track.
Sure,
It
yeah.
works. It does work. Those vocals are annoyingly catchy to a point you hate it, but you've got to love what people can actually do and how quickly they do it. People get jealous of them, but good on them. Well, well done. It's like
Mm-hmm.
everyone's very kind of like, oh, they like to rip people, and there's no point. It's just, if you love what you do and you love what you compose, let other people enjoy it and hear it. If you don't like it, don't listen to it.
So it sounds like, well, you're one of those producers where you have an idea in your head well before you enter the door.
The thing is, I always say that sometimes I drive around in my car and I'm just like, rather than listening to the music, I'll be listening to my car engine because I just love my cars. But whilst I'm driving, I'll be like, I'll just think like bass line, just crazy thoughts and melodies in my mind, like pinpoint stuff which from current tracks which works. And all the music at the moment is kind of very versatile. It's expanding. There's lots of new music coming out. Deep house is becoming very popular, and deep house is awesome. Why is it so awesome? Because you need to appreciate the simplicity of it and why it works. The thing is with trance music, I can come out with about 120, 140 layers of sound. The thing is with deep house music, you can hear that it's very minimal. There's not much going on. There's not much effects. It's just a crash, hi-hat, clap, very dry, no reverb, and it's just, it works. And I completely appreciate all that music, whereas people diss it. But you have to really analyze the production behind it and realize why it works. It does work for a reason. There's so many people that love it. You can't, the people have to open their mind to, and accept other music and appreciate it for why it works, whether it's commercial, whether it's garbage. You just got to appreciate why and not rip it. You got to understand like what is the theory and how that main idea to get that annoying track which is doing well at the moment is kind of like, it's key. So when I come to my DAW, I always think to myself, what am I going to do which is going to, be appealing not just to myself but to people around me? When I play it to them, they'll just bob their heads,
For sure. So I think it's almost, well, it's very beneficial for a producer to listen to a diverse range of genres. And it sounds like, from my perspective at least, people who diss on a lot of music almost limit themselves as a producer because, even if you produce trance and you listen to deep house, you pick up on those nuances and little parts that you can incorporate into other genres, if that makes sense.
No, of course. And I think, trance at the moment is at a point where people, they kind of rip the fact that there's a new genre of trance coming out, which is slow down and it's not 138. But look, at the end of the day, if it's euphoric, if it can give you goosebumps, then that's what counts. I think at the moment where trance is at, it's never been better. It's just so good at the moment. I think the BPMs at the moment that are coming out, like from 127 to 129, like it sounds fantastic. It sounds really, really good on a club sound system, especially live. And I know there's this big EDM kind of boom, 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 boom. It's repetitive, but if there's a way of, taking that hardness and that thump, but without using bass and using other elements to create that loudness, to create that thumping sound, that thumping kick drum with thumping elements, which create that that richness and that big fatness that you want to give to a club sound system. That's what you want. You want to, people at the end of the day, they don't analyze it as much as we do. We're obviously music producers and we like to analyze the music to a point where we're coming from the production side, whereas other people just listen to it. Most of the time are kind of like music brain dead, so they don't know how they're going to listen to it. And it's also a very good way to open your mind to what that person is actually thinking. And most of the time these people are standing in the clubs and they just want to hear boom, 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 because they don't understand about music. They just want to hear loud noise. Most of the people are effed up on their face by this point, which is sad, but you know, it's kind of like true. And you know, you want to make music which doesn't inspire those people, but inspires the people who actually really understand the music behind it and what you put your heart and soul into, especially when it's got like you know, proper euphoria and a beat which can bring out emotion, you know. And I think having a bass line which connects with a kick is very, very important, because you want to bring out what you're trying to bring out. You don't want it to sound flat. And you know, a lot of people are making kick drums and then they're layering like a bass over it and they're just like making a beat and they're just like, this sounds great, but open your mind, listen to it again from an outer perspective. Get your friends to come in, get them to listen to it. If they think it sounds fat, don't forget they're not listening to it in a production side of you. They're listening to it as how it sounds out the speaker. Does this rock my world? You know, most of the time they'll say yeah when they hear just like boom, 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 boom. You know, anyone will say, wow, this sounds cool, you know, when they've got no production experience. But you need to be so open-minded and to compare yourself to what you've done and what others have done which are actually successful. If you've got a mate who's made a good track and you listen to it and you're like, right, this has got potential, and you try and create a track similar to his but a bit better, then you're just like, you're not really achieving much, because you've created it like you're copying one of your mates who's not really gone anywhere. You know, you need to listen to the big boys, the people who are in the top, who are like, you know, people such as Above and Beyond, and you know, you know, BT. Look at BT for example. He's such an honor to work with. His production is on another level. He thinks out the box. He doesn't play the piano. He sticks microphones inside the piano and plucks on the strings. You know, that's how amazing he is. He's so, you know, he buys like all these synthesizers from the 70s which you can't pick up anymore. He buys sounds because there's it's, you know, people are getting really good sounds from software, right? You can't complain. So many like songs at the moment are all software stuff and it sounds fantastic. But when you do play a hardware synthesizer and plug it in and listen to it on a pair of monitors, you can't compare the sound difference. It's like it's like having an orgasm to the ear from hardware, because no, I mean, yeah, you do get very good emulations of really good software and good hardware at the moment, but I just haven't found the richness where you play on a Moog and you play that bass on a Moog and then you open like Arturia, like Mini Moog or whatever. It doesn't have that. Yeah, it sounds the same, but there's that warmth, you know, where you don't need compression, where you don't need EQing. It just sounds natural and it sounds fantastic.
Right. I know there's a big debate on the whole analog warmth thing. Do you think software will ever be able to emulate hardware perfectly?
Yes, I do. I do. And I think with the way technology is going at the moment, I think for people who can actually play keyboards and produce music, it's going to be a very hard future for everyone, because technology is so advanced. Think about it, right? I mean, we're at a point now where MIDI keyboards are turning into like silicone keyboards where you can actually like feel the music. You can actually touch and feel like vibrations from the music. Um, and it's now amazing that you can actually start like melodyning vocals and being able to recreate and pitch vocals. It's just a matter of time where synthesis is going to get so strong, where we'll be able to sing into a microphone, sound like absolute dog shit, but you will sound like Rihanna, you know, and it's just like her voice will be analyze down. She'll just have to go like that, and it just scans her voice, and it will just be able to. She'll have to say like quite a few words, and then it learns how she talks, and it's just a matter of time until it learns how she sings. And it's just computer technology is getting so advanced now. Yeah, you'll be able to think of an idea, and with the whole fact that we're teleporting brainwaves from one side of the world to the other, is just showing us that soon we'll be able to think what's in our mind of a beat, and the computer will be able to translate that into a track. I think it's just a matter of time where we'll be able to have thoughts of a bass line and like vision a sound in your head, and then it will just be thrown into the computer. It's just a matter of like 10, 20 years, I reckon. That's my personal thought. I think I'm just watching technology grow and analyzing the way it is at the moment, and stuff is just expanding really fast. I mean, about 10 years ago, like we just started seeing like V Station and like Vanguard and all this stuff, and then Silence came in, and stuff is just like all these software synthesizers are coming out, and all these like contact files, and it's just fantastic. The libraries that you've got at the moment, and all the sounds which are coming out, like all the east to west stuff is fantastic. The fact that they can create 60s bands and 60s sounds of guitars which have blown up or been destroyed somewhere, and like xylophones and all these crazy instruments from the 60s which they used to use, and 80s drum machines which are coming out, is fantastic. So cool.
Absolutely. Uh, okay, well, I'm sure you get asked this a lot, but I know that a lot of people listening to this will want to know. Layering it obviously plays a big part in your sound. How do you go about picking, the right sounds to layer?
I always have the sound in my head. I always know where I'm going and where I'm kind of wanting to go. So like I've always got an idea of what I want in my head, and I kind of think about what sounds I want to go for. If I want them hard, if I want them sounding rough, rigid,
Mm,
like muted, like there's so many ways of portraying sounds, and I think the best way for me to get ideas is where I'm going with my sounds is by listening to loads of different
mm,
music which is actually doing well, and trying to realize and analyze why they're doing well, and how I can come across and you know just make something fresh from that.
mm.
And I guess layering, it's all about your kick drum. Like I said, you don't put anything on your kick, no compression, no nothing. Just throw it in the track, and you always need to have a kick, which is good, because sometimes people, they find a really really nice kick drum. Many occasions I have a really nice kick drum, and I throw it into my project, and the melody that I've got sounds fantastic, and I know it works, and I know, and I've got this gut feeling this melody is sick, but this kick drum's also sick, but they're not sitting together. You've got a problem. You can't combine a sick kick, right, with a sick track. Sometimes it just doesn't. Sick, by for people who don't understand what I mean by that, is obviously amazing. If you've got an amazing kick drum, an amazing track, sometimes they don't work, and you sometimes have to experiment to find out why, and they're not sitting. You need them to really sit and sync together without doing any effects, without doing anything, just without being mastered. It needs to sit well together. And if you have a kick drum and like one layer of bass, you know, at the moment, it's not really going to sound great because it's just one layer of bass. You want to layer it up with a couple of layers of bass, everything doing something different. One bass doing low end, one bass doing mids, one bass doing highs. You want to spread it out, and sometimes you just want to have it phasing a little just to create that extra thump. But it's all about having a clean mix, and then once you're done with it, EQing it and pumping the shit out of it, and there you go. And I'm not saying like brick wall it, but make it sound loud so that it's got enough dynamics, and it will sound very, very good in a club. You want everyone in that club system to fly on the ceiling. That's what I want.
Right, for sure. I've heard you use multi-band compression on some layers. Is that true?
Yeah, yeah. It's I think a lot of people don't really like to do that. I don't really. advise it. I mean, some people do like to do that on certain sounds. I like to use multiband, and I find that it really straightens out a sound. Like if you've got a really nice fat bass and you put multiband compression on it, the multiband actually brings up the frequencies of the knocking noise at the top or the high end noise, which kind of is sunk in without multiband. And I think it just makes it sound quite leveled, and it makes it sound a bit loud. But a lot of the time, I've been using a lot of this glue at the moment. It's
Right,
fantastic.
yeah.
It's really really good for, like, not actually like, it's kind of more like a tool to kind of give more of a snap to the sound rather than a low end thump. That's what multiband, I find, does. It creates a lot more of a pounding kind of, it's really hard to describe over the phone. You need to see it on the screen, but it's it's got a lot of oomph. And I guess with glue and stuff like that, it's great to bring like high end pads out, or especially when it's all about careful precision EQing. A lot of people like to over EQ. Sometimes it's good to over EQ only on a certain element within the track which needs to be turned down or something like that, and you really need to just hear the high end frequencies. It's all about how you layer things, and you've got to really, even without compression. And I'll tell you one thing: even without compression, if you're making a track and you want it to sound good, it's all about having a good mix. It's about having the right levels. Just learn to kind of listen to another song and try and compare where their levels of strings are, where their levels of sound are, bring their project into the mix and learn how and why it's working and why it works for you and how you can see yourself being better than that.
Right, absolutely. Fantastic advice. Um, so your tracks have an amazing sense of space. When it comes to the use of reverb, what tips and tricks would you give to producers that kind of struggle a bit in that area?
No, of course, a lot of people are struggling on that area, and it was an area that I was very experimentative with and still am in a way. There's always different, Arts Acoustic is fantastic, and a lot of people like that because it sits nicely in the mix. Also, Van Haller's quite good, but you need to understand that, like, a lot of the songs at the moment, if you listen to all what the deep houses sound is doing at the moment, and a lot of the trance sound is doing at the moment, it's all going very, very like roomy. Like the bass line's got like lots of like room, kind of like, it's as if like you've got like a bad take of a bass line. It sounds very. It's like someone's playing a moog in my bedroom, with like no soundproofing, and it's just bouncing off all the walls. It just sounds really kind of like annoyingly good.
Hmm.
It's I don't know what it is, but it sounds fresh, having not a lot of reverb and making the room sound a lot smaller, but having a lot of decay on. So it kind of just creates that. But you don't want to suffocate the sound. A lot of people are putting so much reverb on their sounds that you can't actually hear the key sound behind the push of the reverb. So that's where it kind of feels like it gets lacked out.
I feel a lot of people overcompensate by adding too much reverb to almost cloak or cover up a bad sound or an average sound.
Well, yeah, sometimes you do have sounds which sit in your mix which don't actually work, and people try and find effects to try and kind of wash them out. And I think that's a very, very wrong method of doing it. Whereas if you actually try playing that track back without the sound, if it sounds good without the sound, but it needs something, delete the sound, because a lot of the time you get stuck to a point where you've got something which works, but it's not quite there yet, and you don't know why, and you're trying to find effects and EQ to try and cover up that mistake, but you're not accepting the fact that it just doesn't work. And a lot of the time I import loads of sounds and stuff into my tracks, and I'm just like playing and playing and playing around, and I'm like, yes, this works, this sounds fantastic. And then like the beat kicks in, it's like, whoa, this sounds great. Half an hour later, I'm just like, fresh air. Went out for a cigarette, come back, and I'm just like, nah, this isn't it. This could be bigger. If you think big, if you think it can be bigger, scrap what you've got, like with drums and stuff, or like bass lines, and just work again. If you're really, really stuck, the best thing I can say is close the project, start again. start from scratch, even if it means you have to create like a whole. You can't be lazy. You can't just think you're just going to sit down and create a track and it's going to be a hit. You've got to be realistic with yourself of how you can make it a hit. Like it's kind of like psychology to your own mind when production. You need to think to yourself, I need to create a track. I need to finish it, not start something where I'm going to be halfway through and I'm going to be like, wow, I'm bored with it. It's not working. If you get to that point where you're halfway through and it's not working, it's not going to be a hit. You just got to come to the. That's why a lot of people have projects where they start halfway through. They're like, I don't know. I'm not feeling. I'm not sure where I should go. I don't know what to do. I'm stuck. These situations are not acceptable. You need to have a situation where you're so on fire and you're so feeling this track that you're dying to finish it. You are at a point where you're just like, I need to finish this. Everyone get out my life. I'm going to finish this track. And that's what you need to do. And I think, when it comes down to me, I guess now that I have like a fan base, it's really entertaining and fun to be able to give people what they want to hear. I get, once you get to a point in your life where you've got something, you've got an audience or something, or even if you're like DJing in a local club and you've got people loving your stuff, that's a start. And that's what you should strive for. You need to make tracks which are going to please everyone around you. You have to analyze why it works and just make tracks which you want to finish because people are asking you to finish it. That's how you started off. That's how I started off. I used to have mates walk into my uni bedroom and they were like, mate, what a dope track. And I'd be like, really, you like it? And even though I wasn't going to sign it anywhere, I was just like, you know what, I'm going to finish this track. You have to finish track. That's a lot of people's problem, is they don't finish it or they rush it and it just sounds shit. And most of the time, my inbox, I love listening to new talent. I love listening to what's good and why it works and why people are good at what they do. Like I was listening to this Kygo guy recently,
He's good.
and funnily enough, I realized he's on the same booking agent as me, and I was just like, wow, this guy's amazing. His production is so simplistic. It's kind of like Avicii and like R&B and like electro pop and like disco all combined into one big pita bread and just all in one, and it just sounds fantastic. It's not too cheesy, it's minimal, it works, it's got the now sound. Kygo is just fantastic. His production is so simplistic. I honestly recommend people to go listen to him. There's a reason why he's got 10 million plays on every track on his SoundCloud.
Wow, yeah. Awesome. So you've also collaborated with Jerome Ismay on both Under My Skin and Tension.
Yeah.
What's it like working with him?
He's such a dude. He's just we've bonded in a very kind of like connected way. Like I'm the Englishman, he's the German, and we just get along. So we have such jokes together, especially when we DJ. We just have a very good chemistry. He's very dark and progressive in his production and in his compositions. And I think when we DJ back to back, he starts off very, very like progressive and very minimal, and then it goes that really dark trance. Very kind of he's got such a great unique sound, and it's his character. I don't know how to portray it. I'm not saying it's dark and horrible. He's a lovely guy. He's amazing to be with, and we get on really well. And I know him thanks to Mar Levy. Mar Levy's one of my best friends, and he's one of the main reasons I'm involved in the whole music industry side of things, is because I originally made a track, Mar heard it, played it to someone, and then there you go. That's how it got through. But I've done a lot of shit in the past to get by in the music, and I've had a lot of experience, and I've done a lot of cheesy stuff in the past just so that I can survive and make money. And sometimes doing that, and I think doing that, what I've done in the whole cheesy side of the music industry, has actually made me learn so much about the music industry, especially with the production side of things, especially from doing cheesy music to knowing why it works, and then doing like trance music, which is where my real sound and all my passion was originally involved in. I always wanted to do trance music, always. And ever since Cosmic Gate days back in the day when I was just like 13, when they started coming about, and like ATB and, you know, Children, Robert Miles, all that. I was just like, wow, these are such tunes. And like Hadaway, What Is Love, and Alphaville and Depeche Mode, like all these stuff, all these tracks. I was just like, I need to do this. This is what I want to do. And I'm not giving up. I'm not letting anyone get in my way. Anyone who gets in my way, I'll knock him down. And that's it. You just got to strive what you want.
Right, absolutely. So I heard you're working on an album. How's that coming along?
Yeah, it's going really, really well. I probably reckon I'll be done with it realistically in probably a year's time. Just because I do have a lot of material at the moment, but I'm going to make such an album which is going to be so diverse from all different genres, to a point to all the stuff that I want to make and will make for my album. My album is what I want to kind of portray myself like I want to describe my life via my album, and doing that
Right.
in my music. And you know, I guess with I've still got quite a lot of projects on the go. But at the moment, I've got a lot of stress at the moment, and need to kind of continue producing music that I love, and you know, what people push me to do. I guess it's you know, everyone's been very amazing and supportive. I'm very thankful of the whole trance community, and you know, people not just in the trance community but all around. You know, people who are not even into that music, who I'm trying to open the doors to trance music, I think, to a point where it's not commercial but it's more accepted. You know, people, when you say to them, "What do you do for a living?" "Oh, I make trance music." They look at you and they think, "Oh, Jesus, let's kill ourselves." You know, they think I'm gonna play like doom 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 doom. They'll think I'm gonna play like some psychedelic shit, and it's just like, look, I love Psy. You know, everyone loves Psy music, but how long can you listen to it to? You know, can you sit there for about 15 minutes and listen to one side track which is 15 minutes long with a beat which is so trippy? You've definitely got to be on something to enjoy it. Like, seriously, you've got to be on something to enjoy it. At least 15 minutes of pounding 142 BPM. You know, I can't do it. You know, I'm getting old. So it's kind of like a situation where you've just got to, you know, think about what works.
Absolutely. Are you working on anything else at the moment that we should know about?
Working with BT on a collab, which is coming out soon. We've been working on it for a while, constant changes. It's just, you know, we want to try and perfect it before we release something. It's got to be super. And Jerome, I'm doing a collab with, and Mar Levy, which we've been doing for a while. We've just been all so busy. Everyone's been touring, and it's just like, I've had like crazy amount of flights in 3 weeks, over 20 flights in 3 weeks. So I don't really get much time to produce. And when I am producing, all I want to do is just go home and make music. So yeah, it's like most of the time, it's just I'm kind of concentrating on my own stuff at the moment and trying to do loads of things. You know, everyone thinks, you know, oh wow, you're living the dream and stuff, but you know, it's hard. It's not easy. You're constantly flying. You sleep on a plane. It's not comfortable. I don't sleep sitting up. You know, I go to bed at like 5, 6, 7 in the morning just because my time clock is completely out of balance. And you know, I'm constantly touring, and I love it. I love it. That's what keeps me going. It's the people who are the audience, who are huge Anjunabeats fans and huge fans, and I just love it. It's just, you feed off that, and you get the energy and the vibe off the crowds in the clubs, and that's just what makes me go home and think, wow, they need a bit more that kind of beat in the track. You know, they need a bit more this kind of thump. You analyze the people and the way they dance to the music, and that really helps. It makes you understand, like, if you've got a track which is like 3-4 minutes long and the beat's still going and people are not really moving as much as they were 10 minutes in, you need to like 3 minutes in, you need to make a track which will be like super big to a point where no one stops dancing. And that's why all that EDM stuff at the moment, which is going bomb bomb, is working, because it's making you jump. It's got the jump, it's got the, you know, that's why it's called happy hardcore, because it's kind of like got that boom 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 boom, you know. It's very kind of, it makes you want to just kind of like, yo, you know, just jump your head. But I think, you know, EDM music at the moment is based on happy hardcore, just slow down. And that's why it's called hard house, I think, in Holland, and that's what it's basically based on. It's based on a distorted kick drum and like a thumping bass line, and sometimes the kick drum's clean and it's got a thumping bass line behind it, and it's just sidechain, you know?
Right, for sure, definitely. Okay, we'll jump into these quick fire questions then.
Hmm.
What's your go-to synth plugin?
Silent.
Silent, I thought you'd say that. Awesome. Do you have any favorite sample libraries or sound sets?
You want to laugh? Vengeance.
For sample libraries?
Yeah.
Awesome, definitely. And what about sound sets then? Preset packs?
I'd definitely say Freshly Squeezed are on a level, and I'm not just saying it to suck up at the moment. I think I huge props to David, who has been managing the company, and he's also been a great support and a great guy. Big reps to him. I've watched Freshly Squeezed since day one. I remember finding his website before he changed everything, and it's still an amazing company, and he's done so well for himself. And the fact that he's got all his samples sold to people such as and all the big boys, well done to you, mate. Like, good on you. And I think everyone should respect him for doing that. He's worked his balls off, and I think he's very, very talented. And all the team, all the guys involved in the whole sound design, Sunny Lax, Temple One, all the guys. I'm not going to bring up all names now, but all of you there's some great sounds out there, and I highly recommend them to anyone I meet. And whenever I do sit in the studio with someone, I do say, have you heard of Freshly Squeezed? And I think the fact that some people get annoyed about their songs being remade into presets, I think it's quite like, it makes you think, wow, I've done so well that people are recreating my sounds, and that makes you happy. You should be happy, and there shouldn't be any people who get upset about it. And I think well done to Freshly Squeezed for producing such an awesome sound banks.
Well, thank you. We appreciate the plug.
Yeah.
If you had to listen to one artist on repeat for 24 hours, who would it be?
My boy Artie, definitely.
Oh, nice. Good choice. All right. What's one piece of production advice you wish you were told earlier?
Getting a good mix.
Right.
I think we've always tried to try and get a really good mix for our current productions, but getting a good mix doesn't just mean doing good levels and good EQ. It's by having good speakers and good surroundings and good, like, it's so important. And there's such a difference between having your speakers on a table or on stands that people don't realize how much of a factor having your speakers close to the wall or distant from the wall. Some people don't realize that bass is actually being trapped and being sent to your ears to a point where you're like, I need to take the bass down, and you start EQing and taking levels off. And then when you go to play it in the car, you're just like, shit, why is there no bass on it? Or like, oh my God, man, it doesn't sound loud. I didn't fix the mix at home, Like, I'm just like, dude, just get your mix done properly before you play it in the car. And the way of doing that is by getting soundproofing, which is very important, or getting some sort of like room. Like, I've got this thing at the moment, and it's called the KRK Ergo, and it's like basically it's a geometry like optimization unit. It sounds complicated, but it basically kind of learns how big your room is with like a little microphone, and it basically sends all the signals to the microphone, like low end frequencies, like really horrible sounds, and it kind of learns the sound of how the bass is being reflected off the wall, and it learns to kind of EQ that out. And I think it's fantastic. A lot of people say, oh, it's better to do it and get it done properly and get to your room, properly soundproofed. But if you don't have the money to do it, and you'd rather spend like a small sum of money on, like, I think IK Multimedia are doing something at the moment called the Arc. There's loads of programs that do something similar, but it's all about getting a good set of monitors. KRK are the ones for me. I know they're not the best of the best, but they're great. They produce a sound which is kind of like the pro amateur kind of producer. I think if you're at a point where you're not really into sound design and you just want to muck around and just have fun, KRKs are fantastic. But also a pro producer, if you have the VXDs, I've got the VXD8s, and I always find that when I make a track on my VXD8s, it sounds amazing. Like if you get a really, really good mix, which is really hard to do, you know, if you please your speaker to a point where you're on the VXD8s and you make a really, really good track on that, and then you listen to it and you're like, wow, it sounds really good. And then you play it on the KRK6s, it will sound even better, right? Whereas if you take a track that you've produced on the KRK6s and it sounds great on that, and you're like, wow, I'm really happy with the mix, and then you throw it on the VXD8s, you'll hear that there's such a difference that the levels don't even sound good. But it's
Yeah.
all about getting a detailed speaker. The VXT range, I think, is fantastic. And I think you hear sounds which you can't hear in the sixes or other speakers. And my mate's got a pair of Adams, and they're phenomenal speakers. And they've got so much thump to them that sometimes I think that when I make a track on mine, it sounds different on them. And I'm always trying to find that fine balance of making it sound good on both. So you can't like drastic EQ. You can't like, you know, you've got to make sure all your levels are sounding good and not too over compressed. And, you know, do you know what I mean?
Right, definitely. Yeah. And finally, whereabouts can people find you online?
Online, there's facebook.com/iBluestone, which is my page. And same on Twitter, it's iBluestone. And Instagram, it's iBluestone. And everything's iBluestone. And I'm iBluestone. So, yeah, this is me.
Easy, easy.
Easy.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on, Ilan.
Yeah, no problem, dude. Thanks for having me. And I wish everyone the best of luck and have a great day. And yeah, happy producing.
Cheers.